All right, everybody. I wanted to add in some new information as we just concluded, and the seven members of the new Politburo Standing Committee of the Chinese Communist Party. Its membership has been revealed, and first, right away, takeaway is that Xi Jinping will be secured for another 5 years as General Secretary of the Communist Party, meaning that he will hold absolute power over the party itself, as well as being the chairman of the Central Military Commission, hold power over the Chinese military, as well as his position as the paramount leader. And now he's being touted as the people's leader or the core leadership of the Communist Party going into the next decade. With that being said, the more important aspect are based on the other six members of the Politburo Standing Committee. Just a brief introduction. The Politburo Standing Committee is the most top collective organization within the Communist Party, and there's seven members, including Xi Jinping himself. The other six members in the new Congress consist of allies of Xi Jinping that he handpicked from different areas of the party, and then he elevated them to the position. Specifically, when it comes to the second in command, this gentleman here on the right of Xi Jinping named Li Qiang, and he is somebody that's been closely watched by people as his background or the context of how he got here is very unique in a very bad way. So if you remember, Shanghai went through a 2 months period of lockdown. And during those periods, people went through some of the worst sufferings you can ever imagine when it comes to zero COVID. And he is the guy who was responsible for implementing Xi Jinping's policy of zero COVID directly in the province of Shanghai. So Li Qiang, now promoted to premier, which is the second in command, a position which Xi Jinping entrusted to one of his closest allies, or in terms of people who are his loyalist followers and believers. Li Qiang represents Xi Jinping's total control of state affairs through now him as the second highest member right after Xi Jinping inside the Politburo. What does this mean for the future of China? Well, right off the bat, we know that zero COVID is never going to stop if they elevate Li Qiang, the guy who implemented that draconian lockdown for 2 months in Shanghai. Now he's the head of the state. Well, that means state affair-wise, zero COVID is going to continue. But that also means anything to do with daily operation of China in terms of the state affairs, perhaps even foreign policy, are going to be once again heavily focused and perhaps directly dictated by a staunch loyalist of Xi Jinping. And that just basically means Xi's policy is further implemented outside of that. If we take a look at the breakdown of responsibilities here, it looks like, so of course Xi Jinping is going to be General Secretary, State President, and the Chairman of the Central Military Commission. Li Qiang, as we mentioned, is going to be Premier. Zhao Leji, who is somebody that is staying from the last Congress, so the 19th Congress, is going to be the head of the National People's Committee, and he is somebody that basically oversees the aspects of the people's the organization that forms the Central Committee, as well as Wang Huning, who is also the returning, so he's one of the incumbent Politburo members. He's going to be heading the CPPCC, which is kind of like the legal aspect of the committee. And then you have Cai Qi, who is heading the ideology department. So ideology is basically propaganda, how to indoctrinate people inside China and outside to the ideology of communism, as well as anything like information, news, etc. Ding Shishang, who is going to be the executive vice premier, that is a position that's sort of seen as a preparatory to becoming premier. And Li Xi, last but not least, head of CCDI, which is the security apparatus of the Communist Party. All of them so far, these names I've said, are declared loyalist to Xi Jinping, meaning that Xi was able to put every single person that he wanted on this list. What does that mean? It means that all the other factions that were in the internal struggle and the underground arrangements with Xi Jinping to have somebody from their own faction within that seven-member standing committee did not get what they wished for. And that means Xi Jinping, at the expense of whatever he said to those people who have done to promise them, either he did not fulfill those promises or he simply just outdid them in terms of tactics or whatnot. This isn't to say that Xi Jinping is somebody who's so brilliant, but this just shows that within the Communist Party of China, the internal struggle, this constant need for struggle against each other, against party, against the people, against everything, is fully on display here tonight. As we kind of line up ourselves for the future of how to deal with communist China, I think we're going to see a full iteration of what Xi Jinping has been doing for the past 10 years, but now more extreme, more uh, consistent with the applications. So there wouldn't be any wishful thinking in that China still has a chance to sort of go back to that liberal reform era. Now Xi Jinping is in full control, and we can expect the policies from China to be more anti-America, anti-Japan, anti-Taiwan, and these things are going to continue. Now, one of the other aspect is somebody named Hu Chunhua. This guy here, he was rumored to at least have made, uh, if not the Politburo Standing Committee, so one of the seven members, at least one of the 25 members of the Politburo, which is kind of the wider net for in terms of a committee of people who are from different factions. He was kicked out of both, meaning one of the factions, specifically when we talked about the Youth League faction, and that relates to a video I just did today, which is on former leader Hu Jintao, who was escorted forcefully out from his seat in public in front of all the press. And it seems that their faction has lost a power struggle, and she was able to completely grab hold of power here. Uh, One last point is, what do we consider this whole event to really come down to, right? Considering the bigger picture. Well, I think when it comes to dealing with the CCP, and specifically with a Xi Jinping-led CCP, is the fact that things are going to go back to how Marxism, how communism was taught by Karl Marx, by Lenin, by Stalin, this very old style of communism rooted in political purges, campaigns, struggles against anybody, and military ambition, that is coming back. Whereas fiscal changes, economic changes, capitalist introductions into China, the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, even the 2010s, that period is gone. And what we have left are just things that just have driven people mad in when it comes to China in recent years. For example, the wolf warrior diplomacy. We have diplomats aggressively kind of attacking other people. You saw that in Manchester, the United Kingdom. You saw that across the various dimensions of interaction with China. And you're going to see zero COVID continue. We're going to see threat against Taiwan ramped up and potentially a military invasion. And we're going to see more ideological control. And the more fear that they have that their regime stability is at stake, the more ideological control we're going to see. So China is going to go through a very dramatic and turbulent period, not because things are changing within the party, but because people are going to go through so much suffering. And the United States has a real opportunity here to build a sound plan, as I've talked about over a few videos, to really try to deal with how China it is right now, how they're trying to reshape the international order, how things are basically playing out the way that they have been for the last few years, but now times two, times four, times 10. So that's basically, the breaking news aspect of this, which is that Xi Jinping has allied himself with six other loyalists, and now they control China based on the way that they see it, and which is kind of like a mafia style of ruling. But I think one last bit, which I'll leave you guys with, is the fact that Xi Jinping is on this path toward accelerating toward destruction, almost in a way, in that we see he's ruining the economy for the sake of keeping political control. He successfully killed the city of Shanghai, an economic powerhouse in China, a city that has 25 million people. He was literally able to lock them down for 2 months to destroy the economy, and it still hasn't recovered, just for the sake of keeping zero COVID's legitimacy and his own legitimacy. So there's nothing that he won't do to kind of create that phenomena that communism is stable in China, and the fact that the society needs Xi Jinping. And by doing so, he's really demonstrated the fragility of the Communist Party and in its leadership role, which is that really, if you think about it, the system that institutionalized Xi Jinping himself to begin with is the Communist Party and communism. And the only way for us to see a complete shift or a complete change now It used to be about maybe somebody coming in. Now it's basically about how do we get the system itself to kind of go down before we can really get somebody like Xi Jinping replaced or so out. Changing him won't be the solution, but it will be something much more fundamental. Anyways, so that's a really quick take from me here as we see the breaking news with regards to the new 7 members of the Politburo Standing Committee that China just announced tonight. And this is State of Politics. I'm David Zhang. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.